Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to episode 2 of remembering our first Sea of Tranquility episodes and moments. I told you we'd be doing a handful of these, trying to get everybody on at least once, talking about their very first time they appeared on the channel, as well as their most memorable episode they ever appeared on. So for this episode, we've got from the Hudson Valley Squares, Mr. Ryan Skow. We got the professor of Prague from the Professor's Picks, and of course, in the Prague seat, Ken Golden. From the Hudson Valley Squares, our center square tonight, Mr. Rob LaSante. From in the Prague seat, Louis Nasser. From the Curse of the Collector and all sorts of other shows, Mr. Rick LaBonte. And my co-host each and every Friday morning at the Funhouse, Mr. Martin Popoff. What's up, gentlemen?
Hey guys.
You guys got your memory hats on?
Yeah.
Quite a few of you asked me, what was the first episode I was on? I'm like, I don't know.
Sometimes I had to look it up. I really had to look it up.
Yeah, like
I'm still a newbie, so it wasn't so hard for me.
There you go. So we'll go in the same order that I just introduced everybody. So Ryan, let's talk about your first ever time.
All right. So when you mentioned this topic, obviously my mind is first Hudson Valley Squares. That's what I looked up. But then I realized that wasn't the first time I've been on the channel. So then I went back a little further. So I have three. I have 3 points. So the first one that I could find that I can remember was the winter of 2016. You, me, Pete, myself, Nick Franco, Steve Keeler, and Butch Jones did a best of the year, our favorite albums of the year, and the old Rock Fantasy location before Steve moved.
Wow, yes.
And I forgot all about it. So I watched the little snippets of it. And I'm like, wow, okay. So that's the first time I can remember being on the channel in any capacity. Then a few years later, I think 4 years ago now, so now we're moving to like 2018, 2019, you and me did a favorite songs from Uriah Heep when I came over to your house.
Right here, exactly. Yep.
Pre-COVID. I think not long pre-COVID, but pre-COVID. And in the first Hudson Valley Squares episode that I could find that I was on, because there's a million of them, and I think I've been on like 99% of them, was songs you like by bands you hate. So that's the one I'm like, I honestly have no idea. I had zero recollection of what I said. So I sat down and I watched it. And so the first thing I ever talked about on the show was that I didn't like the Grateful Dead. And I'm a little warmer on them now, a couple years down the road. But it was the song Uncle John's Cabin. Uncle John, yeah. And is that the name of the song, or did I fuck that up? Was it man? I've arranged this.
John,
I just got. No, it was a Grateful Dead, man.
Yeah.
Uncle John's Band, right? That's it.
Yeah, I think it's
that's it. Oh man, I fucked up. So, anyways, that was the first. That was the first thing I discussed on the show. So, yeah, it was like a trip down memory lane watching that, too, because I'll watch some of the episodes over again, but I don't usually after like a while, and after I've done so many of them, and I know Pete, you've done 8, million episodes between all the different shows you do on this channel. So to keep them all straight, like, what did we talk about 2.5 years ago on this show when the show's like an hour and a half long? So yeah, that was the first one I could find. So those 3 distinct events were first time I was on the show, first time we kind of did like a panel about something, and the first, as far as I can remember, that was the first Hudson Valley Squares. Because when I started watching that one, you said you kicked off that episode with, all right, we're back with another episode of at that point, I think it was just called like Rant, like, Sea of Tranquility. We ranted.
Yeah, we weren't calling it Hudson Valley Squares yet.
Not at that point. Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, so he's saying we're back again. So there must be an earlier episode, but I just could not find it on YouTube. I was searching. I'm like, the search function on the phone's not so good. So I went to my desktop computer and I'm searching on there, and I'm like, it's not. That's the earliest one I could find. If there's an earlier one that I was on, I'm going to check it out and watch it. That's the one where
I thought it was the Uriah Heep one, but you're absolutely correct. We did that the end of the year best of special at Keeler's place in Middletown.
Yeah, that was like 2 years before that.
Yeah.
I think the songs you love by bands you hate was the first time we had like the Hudson Valley Squares format, because we only did 2 shows that I remember where I was upstairs, but my Wi-Fi connection upstairs was garbage. So I ended up moving down to where I am now in my regular room. But that was one of the 2 that I remember doing up there when we started. So I think that was
the very first Hudson Valley Squared was September 14th, 2020. But you guys were a team before you gave it a title. for a
Okay.
while. I remember that because I had to do some homework too, so I wrote that down for you. But yeah,
Because
So that's-
didn't we do, Ryan, didn't we do maybe 5 episodes before we actually called it the Hudson Valley Squares, or was it more?
Yes, because it was every week. So that was September 2020, and the one I was talking about, the songs you love by bands you hate, that was early August. That was like
that's right.
first or second week. So yeah, I guess we would have done like 4 or 5 episodes, and then you gave it an official title and moved on. So yeah, that does track.
Yep.
But
I
yeah,
remember
it's
that
and then
episode was very memorable because we were both drinking Guinness, and you were slurping down the Guinness like every 30 seconds.
oh yeah, like my throat was real dry or something. I remember people were commenting like, "What the hell is with this guy?" He's like just constantly like, "Oh God," drinking every 2 seconds. But yeah, again, so going through this, like, all right, what was the first episode? You can go and you can look at oldest. I'm looking like, man, there's been a lot of episodes of this show. It's like a lot, especially when we did it every week for quite a while.
Quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few, but yeah, good episode though.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. Ken Golden, you're up.
So the first show I was on, you invited me and Steve Feigenbaum on. And it was funny because for me, YouTube was like watching music videos and barbecue videos. I really, just watching guys making briskets and ribs, I didn't really recognize the power of YouTube in a sense. So when you invited us on, it was something different. I really didn't know what you were doing. I wasn't aware of Sea of Tranquility. You invited me on. Sure, what the hell? I'll do it. It was, a novelty. And it was a lot of fun, except, of course, Steve's, he hogged the mic, so to speak. So I had a lot of guys saying to me afterwards, gee, man, who is that guy? He didn't let you talk at all, which is kind of ironic because Chad and Anthony always say that I talk too much now. So, but that was the first time. The first panel I was on, I think, was the Canterbury. We did like a top Canterbury. It was you, me, Luis, and is it Neve? Is that her name, Neve?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was fun. I mean, that was like, that was the pattern, ranking the albums and holding up, whatever. And there was I was kind of getting into it at that point. And let's face it, it was like in the middle of COVID, right? So it was like,
Exactly.
What else did we have to do? So it was, it was something different, and the thing is, like I always say, like with the prog seat, I say, I'm always turning people onto the show. And I always say, if you could watch like a 1-hour show on progressive rock every week or every other week for free, wouldn't you watch it? Because everybody has a smart TV now. So you can watch YouTube on your television. You don't have to watch it on your phone or whatever. So yeah, and everybody gets into it. It's amazing how many comments I get from people. So I think one of my favorite shows, obvious one.
Save that for the end. We're gonna come back around.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So, but that was the beginning of it for me. So
yeah, it's weird because like Ken and I have known each other for a long time.
about 30, I'd say about 30 years.
About 30 years. And I don't even know, we chit chat on Facebook and email occasionally. And I don't know, one day I was just like, I wanted to do an episode where I had 2 of like the premier retail guys in Prague on the show together, because I know both Steve and Ken like this the same amount of time. And so I said, let's get these 2 guys on together just to talk about the state of like, what's it like to sell, Prague in the retail, right, and all that kind of stuff, and mail order and all that. So that was the first time I had them on. And then I'm like, Jesus, man, I should just get Ken on a little more regularly. And then that turned into other stuff. So,
it's my personality. It's my glowing personality.
of course, yeah.
It's my charisma. You can't. It's no denying it. So,
You're golden.
yeah, but the thing is funny. The thing that was good about that is that Steve and I speak every day. So for us, it was very relaxed for us to just bullshit about this stuff. So, I mean, Steve and I could go on and on and on about the music business. That's what we talk about.
You do.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about, the music business all the time. We shit on everybody. So, and then, Yeah.
So another guy that I know a long time because he's been a follower of the web scene forever is Rob. So Rob has been a reader and then became a viewer of the channel, and I would bump into Rob at shows and stuff like that. And then I finally decided to get Rob on the channel, and I'll have Rob tell the story from there.
Yeah, well, like great seeing you guys too, because I watch all you guys all the time. I mean, I've been watching like Pete just said, I've been watching this channel for a long time, and especially during COVID. I mean, like you were talking about, Ken, I would lay in bed. I got a smart TV here in my den, and I just hours watching, your show and then the horror show and everything else that we have. We have so much great content on this channel. It's amazing, and to be part of that for me is a lot of gratitude I have with Pete. Like Pete said, I started reading the webzine early 2000s. That's how I learned about a lot of the music that we listen to today, whether it be prog or metal or rock, classic rock, whatever it was that these guys were reviewing, Stephen Reed and the other guys that were on there. That's how I learned more about music than I ever knew. And then following the channel, and then I guess it was, I saw Pete at a show. I think it might have been Sons of Apollo or something like that. And, he had mentioned, he said, oh, do you ever think about coming on the show maybe one time? I said, yeah, if you want me to, I don't mind. And then he called me up. And my first show was, we reviewed the Evergrey Escape of the Phoenix. Now, I am a tremendous Evergrey fan from back in the early 2000s when In Search Of came out, because I didn't know who Evergrey was at first, but when I heard that, I went to the back catalog, and I've been following him ever since. And so Pete had me on the channel and basically just reviewed it and talked about the band and, who I know I talk to these guys all the time. They're very accessible. And, for me, it was a big deal because I love the band so much. I mean, and to be able to discuss, one of your favorite bands on on the show was, I felt was an honor. I think it was about 15-minute, 20-minute show, something like that. And then we did another show. I did, what was it? The homework assignment with Jason Morris, who was a guy who lives upstate New York. He's a judo guy, has his own dojo and all that. And I had to listen to Sweet Give Us a Wink, and he had to listen to the album that I gave him, which was Siam. I forget the name of it now. I lost that, and that was an interesting show too, because to be honest with you, I wasn't a big Sweet fan, but I did give it a try, and I actually liked it. I liked the album, and he liked the album that I gave him. So it was a pretty good album assignment that we had. So, I mean, that's, and like I said, that was in the Evergrey show was probably like March, Pete, right up, because the album came out in February of 2020.
Because all their albums come out at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and you had Tom on. You had Tom on the channel too, which was cool.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's my story. I'll stick to it.
Cool. Cool. All right, Lewis. Lewis is in Mexico right now, by the way.
Wow.
You're on mute, my friend.
Oh, your microphone, buddy.
I
Okay.
would like to apologize in case.
Yeah.
And-
He's not coming through.
Seems to have lost you.
We're losing you.
We'll give him a high five.
High five.
High five. There he is.
There you go.
Yeah, like I said, the internet here is pretty shitty, so I apologize. Yeah, it's almost as shitty as your haircut. It's
I'll tell my wife.
I didn't have time to look up exactly which was the first time I was on. I remember I knew of the magazine because I would send my albums to be reviewed, and I always liked the way that people talked about music there. And I believe I did, and I could be wrong, but I haven't had time to search. I believe that the first one I did was one on prog epics, your favorite prog epics. And I think what I did there is because I know that Anthony likes to talk about the same 4 bands all the time. I wanted to also bring in some other bands, some more modern bands into the mix.
Mhm.
And that's the first one I remember. I don't know how much of that you heard, but that's all I got.
All of it.
think-
Yeah.
I think you are correct. I think it was the favorite prog epic. So that was probably 6 episodes into the series, I think, maybe something like that, maybe 7. I don't know. It was fairly early on.
Yeah, this is what I remember.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of the pandemic, or because I was, yeah. I started watching. I didn't know you guys had the YouTube, and when I discovered it, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. So and here I am. So I don't remember how that happened, but it's great.
You were, well, I knew of you and the music, and I know we were at a lot of Near Fest together. Both probably too drunk to remember if we met each other or not, but I remember you were a big commenter, and you commented on all the videos and very intelligent comments. And then one day I just kind of dropped you a response to one of your comments, and I'm like, I'd like to have you on the channel, so, and that was it.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Yeah.
As with everybody, very happy we made all this.
So here we go.
Yeah, All right, let's go up to Canada. Rick LaBonte,
Yeah.
giving us some dates before about how long it's been,
Well, yeah. Because it goes back February 2018. That's how far back. Because there's a couple of series of a thing that happened that week. That is why me and Pete connected. Let me explain. First and foremost, it was February 7th in 2018 where Pete talked about the history of Uriah Heep. You know how I feel about Uriah Heep and the history I have. And it would, lo and behold, 4 days from there, or 4 days from there, February 11th, I would perform on stage with them, plus do a sound check, Easy Living, to both that week apart. And I remember just wanted to see what they are like today, or what maybe I got a sneak peek of what the set list could be like. We got people putting YouTube performances, and they haven't been in Canada since 1990, the last time I saw them. So it's like Rage Against in Silence was the last, and so they had so much music since then. And so I was wondering what that'd be about. And I came upon Pete, History of Uriah Heep. And for one, that is a rare thing to see. Uriah Heep is like, a lost relic. To find anybody talking about Uriah Heep or any footage or stuff like that, it's hard to do. You really got to know your history. And here's this guy who's talking about it, and he's like a buddy of mine. I feel like I know the dude. The way he talked about Uriah Heep and went through all this, and I thought, man, this guy could be a buddy of mine. We gel. I just can tell that he'd be easy to get along with. And for the viewers out there, he's exactly the way you see him on camera in real life. And I got to know that in October 2022. But anyway,
actually,
so
much
I watched.
nicer.
Well, you were awesome on the history, and I'm like, that was excellent. And so I didn't see anything for the snippet, but I never forgot that. And I went too deeper because under your belt, you did a Whitesnake history, a Rainbow history, and like by then I subscribed. Man, I'm on board. And it was interesting because Uriah Heep with the Gateway, and that would be my first episode I ever do with him later. But that don't come for a bit. For a while there, I would just follow the show, and I'll follow it religiously for a few years. I went to Hawaii, UK, and on my YouTube or laptop, I'll follow the homework, the album versus another album, or follow all these things all the way through. So I was in tune to some of the episodes by just following it through way before COVID. And so, and I was really impressed the vast collection that he had. So every time he would engage with the viewers, I would try to trick him. Have you heard of this band? Yep. Oh man, try to get this album. Yep. And I think I got a kick-ass collection, and this guy's got more than me. So I did give up on that. And as my girlfriend's watching the show, because I would take the laptop or the Bluetooth with my phone, whether I'm barbecuing, whatever, or working out, I would listen to one of the shows. And you'd be talking and you don't reveal the album right away. You start doing with it came out in such and such label, such and such year. And I'm always going, Rainbow, 1976, it's like it's a game show. I'm throwing out the answer before Pete actually says it. So my family is having a kick of that I'm so engaged to the YouTube because I was impressed at how much stuff that you were talking about music that I got in my own collection. And so, and then, and you start meeting people that will follow your show. And then we have some internet trolls that be a dick or something like that. And we had people like George and me would, get to them. So I didn't even meet them yet, but I was seeing their name come up quite a bit. The people that later will be on your show, like Jamie Lazlo and all that stuff. So it's been an interesting ride following this stuff. And then here you'd mention my name occasionally, or always seem to read my question on one of those online stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool. So he digs what I'm saying. I even had the nerve once because he was doing a nice tribute on Neil Peart, but he spelled Neil like Neil Morse, Neal. And it was just posted. So I send him a message. Hey, I think you meant Neil, like Neil Young and whatever. Because I have his back. I want him to do good. He thanked me and he said, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And I was always worried that, you never know how the people off camera will be like, but he was just a true gentleman. And so I would get engaged until one time Steve Sealer saw the video. And, as you start following on, people on Facebook that connected from SOT channel. And Steve Keeler had me on and as a friend, and he saw that I did this Uriah Heep video, the very one I talked about the week later that I sang on London, Ontario. So he invited me to do his rock fantasy file. And I got to know who he is because of Pete. And then so he was trying to fit some episode and it didn't gel because I was busy, but he landed on the one I really liked with Led Zeppelin edition. And lo and behold, Pete's on that panel. So as he's introducing us before we go live, this is Rick LaBonte. Pete says, I know who he is. He's familiar with the comments. So that made me feel good that he acknowledged that I, had his back and all that kind of stuff. And within 3 weeks later, he asked me, would you like to do a dream set list of Uriah Heep? And so that was my gateway to get into him with the history of Uriah Heep. Asked me Uriah Heep of all bands. That was awesome. I said, yeah, for sure. So I'm like glowing a dark cartwheel, feeling pretty excited. It's awesome. But that could have been my first and last show. And let me explain. Because when I did this big, elaborate 2-day event for the 50th anniversary.
Not just
25 songs.
He's like, let's plan a whole weekend. I'm like, oh my God, all right.
Yeah, that's right. My first day is 25 songs. The second day, 25 songs. Don't repeat. Bring all past and present members to perform this. And they're filming it at London. And okay, it's a dream, so I can dream big, right? So, and so soon I'm done. He goes, all right, good night, folks. And he walked out and go, oh, shit, I stole the thunder from my host. I go, oh, God, what did I do? Well, I had to go big. That's the way I go. I always go the extra mile. I knew it could have bite me in the ass. He said, no, that was great. And then he goes and shows some of the songs he would like to see in his set list. He said, that was awesome. And I thought, okay, I might not hear from this guy. But no, me and Ryan ended up doing another Uriah Heep episode the following week or two where he would do a band by the decade, the favorite album of the decade. So we would pick a 70s and 80s and 90s and all the way through. And we were all, in fact, we knew that the 70s was going to be an easy one. So we deliberately kind of like, he said, look at yourself, Demons and Wizards, I did Magician's Birthday. We got our base covered. But the rest of us were on point in all the decades. So I thought, all right. So I didn't lose this guy because of that first episode. And you know what, guys? I was lucky. I was invited to be in the Proxy, the Hudson Valley Squares, the Guitar Corner, the Monster Den, doing the Gamma films, and like going back in time and in my own childhood. I got to rank albums. I got to do album reviews. It was really awesome. The homework assignment. Now I got a home plate called The Curse of the Collectors, and we get to talk about what got me here, because that even the history of White Snake and all those things that started falling, that was my very first purchase. I thought I had every White Snake until I saw David Coverdere's Northwind that he mentioned. So that made me do my first homework. And I'm telling you guys, since 2018, I guarantee he spent $1,000. And Pete never got a damn commission out of it. All he got is a little bit of respect, a pat on the back. But I got to say, I appreciate that. But you know, it also is just rewarding to see him dig into Tom Petty a little deeper, King Jack, me, Martin, working with him on the Tea Party, post Paul McCartney. So as much as he gave me a lot of new bands, he got into that exchange, and that was awesome. And the best thing, guys, with the highlight of this whole friendship is meeting all you people and so forth, is when my CD came out. I would, because I've learned all these bands during COVID, I was influenced by Pete bands that he share me that affect my music, because he talked about classic rock, blues rock, prog rock, metal. And if you listen to my album, it had a little bit of all that and that, and it was okay. It was all on one channel. I can put it on a double album. And he promotes a lot of double albums. And I just thought, okay, what the hell? I just do it. But here was the gamble, because he's an honest critic. Like, Pete is your friend, but he doesn't owe you anything. But I thought, you know what? I felt like him and I were so close in all the bands that he turned me on to, or we already had in common, that he might be the guy that could just just drive my album. So it was daring, because my heart beat, and I said, would you like to get a sneak peek preview of my album and maybe write something if you like it? I don't want to ask anything, but if you dig it, say something. And he wrote the perfect thing. He really knew me well. And then the video review was even much more in depth, which was, again, the guy was like the fly in the wall. He knew me about my influence and so forth. And so that was impressive. And since then, people around the world have connected with me, and I sold more CDs. I made my money back thanks to Pete. All that investment, having people from Uriah Heep or Pat Travers guys, or all these people, that was one thing. But having him write was just an equal celebrity to have his DNA somewhat on my album by that point. Because I learned a lot of music by hearing you guys talk and picking each other's brain about stuff, and then Martin talking about, and his books, and he influenced my my CD as well. It was a win-win situation. And then to think that we had the SOT festival where I got to meet these people in person was even more incredible. And then not only engage in the flesh, but he let me play on that festival. And I heard about my buddy, he's not gonna be able to play, Mr. Nasser, his band pulling out. I asked him, would you want to play with me? And Eric Porter jumped on board, and they played my song and some covered with a week notice. And we had one rehearsal in the dress room, and off we go. And it was just like we've been playing like forever, because there was a solidarity there. And that forever will be so special to me. And since then, guess what, guys? Lewis has played in one of my songs. Just recently recorded bass on one of my songs that I wrote, and Jim Bachi's on one of my tunes. And that wouldn't happen without this friendship, without this channel, and everybody showing our love for music. So this sounds like a thank you note, this whole thing, but it is like that, Pete, because I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And the reason why I called those guys, because you called me out for that movie Get Back, the Beatles documentary, and it was a last minute thing. He said, hey guys, and he handpicked some people that might be Beatles fans. Well, this song I wrote had a Beatles vibe to it, and with all Jim and us talking about Fuzz Bubble and all that power pop music, I thought that would be the right song to invite them on. But it was that show that made me think, oh, I'm calling Lewis for bass, or I'm calling Jim for guitar, because it had a Beatle feel. So, and again, hats off to the SOT community, because I made friends I think I've had for the rest of my life.
There you go. That's what it's all about, right?
Very cool.
Very cool. All right, we're going to stay in Canada. Another guy that I know for a long, long time, although we only met in person finally for the first time last October, but Mr. Mark Popoff.
Yeah, that was very cool. Thanks for bringing up the festival, Rick, because meeting all you guys was amazing. That was so fun doing that. And the other thing I want to mention is those coming up with those dream set lists was a lot of fun too, wasn't it? That was interesting. That was a lot of imagination. So I was doing a little quick research here while you guys were talking, because you guys are throwing out dates, right? And I'm going, oh, geez, I don't have dates. So where are the dates in this? So if you hit the show me more button or whatever, you can find a date. I mean, otherwise I'm just looking 3 years ago, whatever, right? So it took Pete to tell me, he figured it out, that the first time on was, I guess, May 25th, 20, which is we got on to discuss this book, the first of the Rush ones, which you can't get anymore. You can only get that in softcover now. But so we went on and did a show of that. And I just noticed, because you guys were like digging deep in some good research there. So I'm thinking, well, okay, so what was the first time other than going on for this, like the first maybe quote unquote Friday at the Funhouse? That I haven't found, but it looks like 11 days later, June 6, 2020, we were on ranking the studio albums, Ozzy Osbourne, the neat way you do it, the W/Martin Popoff. And then it says, join host Pete Pardo and special guest co-host Martin Popoff as they rank the studio catalog of legendary heavy metal vocalist Ozzy Osbourne. And I've got 3 little bits of proof that the Rush was the first one. So one says, Danimal77 says, revisiting your first ever video with Martin. This is where it all started over 2 years ago. He did that at 17 months ago. And then Steve Clark says, very fun seeing Martin's first visit. Mentioned the Clash a few minutes in. Nice. And then Donnie Brooke Detria said, and just that, a legendary combo was born. So that was all in the Rush show. But then the funny part is, I remember, so I just noticed Pete reviewed the Rush book July 11th, so about a month and a half later. And I remember sitting there at work one day going, where are all these damn PayPals coming from? What's going on here? Why am I selling this book? It's a little old now. Why am I still selling this Rush? Why did I get 8 orders today? Right. And then I'm thinking, I better look online and see if something's happened there. It's like Pete's review goes up, right? And then it's like, oh, the power, right? Which is, I super appreciate, because I mean, you've reviewed probably 15 or so of my books over the time. And the other impression that's really amazing here is that this only goes back to that the pandemic was already in full swing, which is crazy, 3 years ago like that. And so I want to thank you for giving me structure through that time and something to do and all that. So that was really nice as well. Just knowing that you were there Friday, you were going to drink Thursday night, if I was going to be on Friday. So yeah, the mystery's still out. I don't know when the actual first Friday is, because I went and did a little search, and I guess this June 6th, 2020 seems to be a Saturday. So I don't know if that was the first one that we were doing something outside of the Rush, but no, I got to thank you for all of that, the structure, the friendship, the reviewing the stuff. And like I say, just seeing orders come from nowhere, meaning Pete must have said something about this, because I mean, you have the most power out of anybody in that respect. So that was really cool. So yeah, there you go. And I guess that was it. I didn't go back and play any of this, because I never play anything that I'm on ever. I don't want to hear myself talk. Even when we go live on the Friday, 2 hours after we do the show, I turn the speaker off because I don't want to listen to it. I just read the comments and get in there and comment and stuff. So I don't even listen then. But yeah, it's same old set. I've never changed the set. I'm just still my office behind me. It looks exactly the same or whatever. And the hair gets big and then it gets small. I get a haircut and then it gets big again and it gets small. Pete's just changed once, I guess, right?
3 times now. But yeah, okay, yeah, but pretty much.
Yeah.
The longer.
No, but you got from the long to the short, basically, right?
Yeah.
So
they had a little more context. So I had Martin on the very first time. It's the exact same show he's talking about, to kind of just interview him about the book. Because the book, I think, had just come out. I just got it, and then I reviewed it, not long afterwards. But after we got done doing that show, it went really well, and we both were kind of like, "Oh, we should do something. We know each other forever. Why don't we do something else together?" And so we planned. I believe it was that Ozzy show.
Okay.
But interestingly enough, we did film it on a Saturday. And I remember we were already friends on Facebook. And I remember that Friday night, I was hanging out, drinking by my pool and posting pictures on Facebook. And he sent me a message on Facebook. It's like, don't forget, we have the show tomorrow morning. Right. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll be there. I think Mark was kind of like, uh-oh, Pete's going to get liquored up tonight and not make the show the next day. And then after we did the second show together, it went really well. And we just kind of looked at each other. It's like, all right, what do we want to do next? And then that became a weekly thing. And before you know, we had the Funhouse. So yeah,
That's funny. So that is probably the one time ever that I remember you saying, man, I'm really hungover today. and so it must have been that first show. That's funny.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Which, hangovers with me don't really happen much anymore. So it's like, so it was a while ago. It was like 3 years ago. So,
Oh, crazy.
All right, let's circle back to Ryan. So your most memorable episode ever.
All right, well, you know what? Obviously, you guys talking here kind of jogged my memory on a bunch of stuff. So I am terrible. I am the worst in the world at remembering where I've met people. So I have no honest idea like when exactly I met Pete. It's been a long time. It's probably pushing 20 years now.
Yeah.
But I did find recently, I was going through some old pictures and I found it, and I'll see if I can show this on my phone here. I found this is from 2006. This is before me and Pete went to see there. Let me see if I can zoom in here.
Yeah, Ryan's got hair there. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, I got hair. So there's me and there's Pete. This is 2006. Going to see Emperor.
There's Steve Keeler.
Yep, Steve Keeler's there. We're going to see there's Steve and there's some other people we're friends with. Going to see Emperor down in the city at BB King's in middle of Manhattan, Times Square. So at least 2006 and a couple of years before that. But I tell you, I don't use any social media. I don't really follow it, and I deleted all that stuff a couple of years ago. But I am a fiend for going to concerts all over the place. And it is rare that I go to any concert now, anywhere, in any country, or any big a stadium show, a little show in a basement. Somebody comes up to me and like, Ryan Skow, Hudson Valley Squares. Bam. I went to a show last week. It happened down in a little show in Brooklyn, like a little underground metal show. I've actually just today I was talking to I sell music on Discogs sometimes, and I got a order from a guy from Bangalore, India, who watches the show. So first person I've ever talked to from India that watches it. But I was in Norway last year with Nick, and the guy comes up to us. He's like, I love you guys. I'm like, where are you from? Buenos Aires. I'm like, all right, cool. Another guy comes up. He's like, I love you guys too. Like, where are you from? Cyprus. All right, it's like literally all over the world. But every show,
I believe it.
It's fucking, I love it. Every time someone comes up, I'm like, that is so cool. I just want to talk to everybody about it. I love it. As actually, I went to see the band Emperor about a month ago with Nick down in Brooklyn, another venue. When we're leaving, and it's a big venue. It was King's Theater down in Flatbush. We're leaving, it's packed, and guy grabs me and he's like, man, I love the show. And you're getting pushed along by like a giant crowd of people, so you can't really stay in one place. And he's like, the time you talked about the Flower Traveling band, Satori from Japan, I fucking love that album. I'm like, hell yeah, man. It's like one of the greatest Japanese psych, heavy rock albums from the early 70s, as I was being pushed away from this guy because, there was a crowd pushing me along. But so my favorite show, man, that's the one, like I was saying, did so many shows. And again, missing out on shows because of the pandemic. It sucked for everybody. And it sucked for me a lot. It just was painful because for a while you didn't know, are we ever going to get this back? And eventually it came back slowly and drips and drabs. But there was a couple months when it's like, this could be it. Who the hell knows? And that was miserable. So it was a huge lifesaver to have a way to talk about music. Because a big part of going to shows is you get to see people, you talk about music, you bullshit about it, you hang out, you have a couple beers. You miss that, obviously. So this was a great, tremendous sanity saver to save that. But my favorite show, I'd say it was probably a fairly recent one. It was the best of favorite albums from 1986, just because it went so off the rails. And of all the shows we've done on Hudson Valley Squares, that one was it was multiple car wrecks, train wrecks, plane wrecks colliding simultaneously at this nexus of insanity. It was a lot of fun. So and a lot of times the shows are fun. There's a lot of laughs, and people love that in the comments, and I love reading that. You guys cracking me up. I love talking about the music, but I was laughing out loud the whole time. I love reading that. But that episode was really kind of I had to check. It's almost a little over an hour and a half long, so it runs a little on the longer side. But it was just nonstop. I remember just jokes and people.
Was Lynn and Butch on that one?
Yeah, Lynn and Butch were on that. And they were in rare form, and Karen was on it, and I know she's good at getting them spooled up too. Really good at that role. So yeah, just that
was the Get a Room episode, right?
Yeah, okay. That was because Lynn and Butch have that dynamic.
Just screw already.
Yeah, Karen's just big buckets of kerosene right on the fire, just big old buckets of kerosene. So all three of them kind of like bouncing back and forth, and the jokes, and you know, I think Chris was on that too. He's always hilarious. Yeah, that's probably my favorite one. And it's that not only is that one of my favorite years on music, just because, you know, being into metal, that was a great year for it. But so there was a lot of great music to talk about. But just the conversation, and you know, anytime you can make people laugh like that is always awesome. I love that. So that's probably my favorite.
That was one of the more memorable ones in like recent months. Yeah, that
I'd say so. And there's a million comments on that video that say that. And I don't know how often, like Martin said, I don't like to go back and watch a lot of my videos because I don't like same exact same reason Martin said. But sometimes I'll go back and watch videos from like 2 years ago, or you know, a while ago, and I'm like, man, there's 2,000 comments on this now. What the hell are people talking about? Because you read the comments, you post the video and you read the comments for a while, and there'll be like 100, 200, 300 comments, and you know, all right, cool. You go to the next video. Come back a few years later, there's 2,000 comments. Like, all right, so I guess I should read through some of these, you know.
Yeah. Actually, there was newer comments on that video.
The oldest videos still have like comments from like a month ago or a week ago. So then it's kind of interesting to read them. And sometimes I'll respond to people like 2.5 years later. I'm like, you know, right on. You know, you get like
there's definitely a momentum going.
Yeah, it keeps it going. You get that message alert, like 2 years later, someone responds to you. But yeah, I've been doing that more and more often, going back to old videos and like reading the comments, like. Even if the comments are a year old, you know, if it's a good comment, it's a good comment. So that's probably my favorite episode.
Yeah, that was a good one. I forgot all about that one. All right, Ken.
Well, the low-hanging fruit is the episode of, you know, prog albums that we hate. And that was great. That really was great. Luis having his head bandaged. And I remember saying, you know, before we started recording, I said, just don't mention it. Don't say anything about it. Just make believe it's not happening. And I think that really added to it. And to this day, if you read the comments, people are still asking, what happened to Luis? What happened to it's true, you know. I was looking at it the other day.
After all this time, that the truth would be known by everybody. But yeah,
I mean, you know, it's hysterical. But that was the obvious one. I'll tell you another one that I really liked, where we did songs that suck from bands we love. The opposite, I guess, of what Ryan had. Yep. So I remember reading the lyrics to Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It was A Taste of My Love, which is one of the most insipid songs ever recorded. And then, you know, everybody copies what we do. I mean, that's truth. I mean, there's all these other panel shows, and they all just copy, you know, our topics. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, I was watching another channel. I'm surfing on YouTube. I'm like addicted to YouTube now. And there's some British dude who's doing the exact same show. And what is he doing? He's reading the lyrics to Taste of My Love. I'm like, fuck you, you know. you know, give me a little credit at least, you know. I mean, just something.
Get your own song.
You know, I mean, it was just so awful, and it's like, and it was just so obvious, and this guy just did it. I'm like, what a douchebag, you know. So, but you know, Martin made a really good point, and that is, you know, it really did give us structure during the pandemic, because what were we doing at night? I mean, I'm not a drinker, you know. My wife and I, we watch a lot of TV. I listen to a lot of music, but you know, the show made me use my brain, and you know, we weren't going anywhere. So I mean, when we do these shows, you know, I take them really seriously. I do a lot of research on them, and you know, gets my brain going. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing. Now the pandemic's over, I don't give a fuck, you know, just do whatever. Just wing it, you know. So actually, sometimes it comes out better if I don't do any research and I just wing it. So
more spontaneous.
Yeah, but those I mean, there were a lot of good episodes. The thing is, like on the prog seat, I think there's a really good natural interaction between all of us, and there's a good mix of personalities, and we all get along, and I think it comes through, and I think that's what attracts so many people to the show. You know, we're very natural, and people sort of feel like these are guys I can relate to. You know, there's there's a little bit of something for everybody. There's maybe a guy who just doesn't really know all that much, and he's just learning about this stuff, and then there's some crazy guy who wants to send me messages about Cosmos Factory. I mean, there's all different levels, and I think that's one of the beautiful aspects of the show.
Yeah, I think I'm a firm believer in chemistry and putting together people on specific shows that play up to their strengths. And that's why I think all the shows, every one of them, whether you're talking about Curse the Collector, Hudson Valley Squares, Monsters Den, Friday Morning with Martin, whatever the proxy, they all have this unique cast that works so well together. And the viewers look forward to, sometimes I see comments all the time. It's like, yeah, I don't even care what the topic is. I just love watching all you guys talk together. And I think that's important,
You see it in the chat when, during the premiere. So it's the same guys.
Yeah.
And they get along. They know each other. I don't know who they are, but they know each other. And there's that chemistry that develops.
Yep, for sure.
Camaraderie.
Rob, how about your favorite moment?
Yeah, I was just thinking when Ken was talking too about that, getting to know all the people that actually comment, or in the morning when you've been doing the show this month, every morning at 9 o'clock, you get the same guys, Gary and Sal and all these guys, they're on every morning and they're in the chat, and it's nice, it's really, it starts my day off. And like you say, Ken, being part of something greater than ourselves, is just like, it's funny because you've been talking about, because I love watching your show, but the banter you guys do too, you and Lewis and all that. And my friend Marty and I, we that's how we are. That's how we are when we see each other. We bust each other's chops all the time, and we're always, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing. It's so natural that it happens here. And that's what I love about being part of this. So for me, I mean, Ryan stole my thunder because I was searching, all the shows I did. And since I'm still like, fairly new here, only 2 years have been coming around here, but part of the group, I looked this up, but I actually watched it. I did watch the whole thing today, and I couldn't, I started laughing all over again. It was so funny, some of the stuff that was said. Like Pete was talking about something, I can't remember exactly, but it says when he was younger and he had long hair and he had a mustache. Was that like the 70s porn mustache? Stuff like that. And then one of my picks I had was I got my balls busted for by Butch. Was I picked 5150 for 1986 as an honorable. He says, I'm out. That's it. And then Ryan's head in the dryer with shrapnel with Void. And then Ryan, Poison played the tits off. All these quotes, I wrote them down because I was cracking up.
Wasn't that also the Necrocock episode?
That was one of them.
Okay.
I get accused of this at my job too.
I think so,
I just say stupid shit all the time, so often. People are like, remember when you said so and so? And I'm like, I say 100 stupid things a day. So like, the words just pop out of my mouth, and then I just keep going. So I'm like, yeah, I probably said that.
And then you remember Ralph pulled out his list. Yeah, there's like it looked like
it's like a scroll.
I said, holy crap. All that stuff. I mean, and then I think somebody mentioned I think it was Len said about Madonna, she put that on the list, and Butch was like, what, Madonna? It was great. And Angry Karen, we had angry 16-year-old Karen, all these things. It just made the show fast, it made it funny and memorable. It really was. So for me, that was my favorite show as of today. That was the show that we did. And no, Chris was not there and Nick was not there. It was just
okay.
Yeah, it was me, you, Pete, Aaron, Ralph, Lynn, and Butch. And,
I swore Chris was.
And Craig. Craig was there too.
Okay, because Chris is a funny motherfucker. So usually
no, Chris wasn't on the show.
Canzoneri wasn't on that one?
Who?
Canzoneri? Chris Canzoneri?
No. Nope, Canz wasn't on either. I think it was May we did that show. May?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. It was
it wasn't that long. A couple months
I already forgot who was on it.
That's why I had to watch it.
It was a good one. I may have to rewatch that one. All right, Lewis, how about you?
Well, I'm back. I hope I'll be stable. We'll see.
Okay.
Well, we don't know.
Fucking around with a computer mercilessly. We'll see what happens.
You sound better. Yeah.
All right. So my favorite show, and it may seem like low-hanging fruit, but it really isn't, is the one I did from the hospital. Only because a couple of hours before that, there was a very good chance I'd be fucking dead. So because I was in a really good mood, which is why I told Pete that we should do the show. And he was very skeptical at first, like, I don't know.
I tried to talk him out of it.
And I was like, no, man, this is all good. I mean, what am I doing? I'm lying here with a million fucking tubes in my arms. I have a tube in my dick. This will be fine. We're just gonna talk about bands and albums I hate. I had enough anger in me to be able to do that and actually have fun with it. So I did tell him that initially we should do it like a Monty Python. And then Ken supported that idea that we shouldn't just mention it at all, which we didn't. And I really enjoyed that show for that reason. I especially enjoyed the fact that the nurse kept looking at me like I was completely out of my mind. And she was just waiting for me to just collapse, which never happened. And so I enjoyed that show a lot. But I also enjoyed a couple of others. I enjoyed the one where I got to talk a little bit about the final cut for a variety of reasons. Number one, a lot of people shit on that record. And I especially enjoyed talking about it with Ken because Ken is a guy who I deeply respect and admire, and I genuinely like him. And I especially like it when we get to argue about shit we disagree on. Because normally I agree with him. He normally says things that are correct. And every now and then he shits the bed, and it's fun to just banter. And I enjoyed that episode. I really also enjoyed the episode where it was both him and Feigenbaum when we were talking about Passion Play. Because I have a long history. I have an even longer history with Feigenbaum than with Ken. I've been buying records from Ken for many, many years, but Steve Feigenbaum was always at Orion Studios collecting money at the door. And Orion Studios is a place that is very, very important in my life as a musician and as a music fan. So it was great because these are two people I genuinely respect as far as what they know about music and all the curating they do for people like us. I think it's something that they don't get enough credit for, but it's really, really valuable. So it was fun to talk about that record with them and just see what they thought about it, you know. And you know, I always feel like I'm the asshole kid talking back to the teacher when I'm doing these things with them. And I'm not saying I'm not an asshole. Clearly I am, but it's still fun, right? And I really enjoy it. But I enjoy everything about this program. To me, I think it's been said before, and I want to reiterate it. It was super important for me that this existed during the pandemic. I would watch it all the time. And I began buying some records I wouldn't have bought without the content that Pete was putting out. And I never really appreciated how much Pete just loves music and all the fucking work he does to just make sure that music doesn't die alone. So as a music fan, but also as a musician, this is something that's really important to me. So I wanted to support that. I instantly, you know, subscribed and all that, but I really appreciated watching everything, you know, and every now and then I would hear things I'd never heard about before, and then I would investigate, and most of the time they were fucking awesome, you know. Cantoneri was the guy that got me into Nile with Pete and Ryan and Amorphis, so many other bands that I never even fucking heard of that I now love, you know. So it's a great way to discover music, and I think that's the spirit that I tried to bring to it, is to continue that. It really is about shining a light on things that are normally invisible, right? So, but I always have fun. I mean, people always think that I hate Anthony because I shit on John Anderson. I don't hate Anthony. I love Anthony. Anthony's a great guy. I don't love John Anderson, but that's a different story. I just really enjoy everybody that I work with here. Chuck, Eric, Chad, who I've also known for many, many years, all the near fests and all that stuff. It's just fun, you know. So I really just enjoy doing this. I like talking about music. I'm a musician, but also I'm a music lover. So it's great.
Cool.
You know,
Good stuff.
You know, there's something about this. One of the things about these panels, I mean, for me, and I think I could speak for all of us, I think we like to learn, but I think in a certain way we like to teach as well. So, you know, we have all of this knowledge or different levels of knowledge, but it's great that you could pass it on. You know, it's like, you know, I mean, I always kid around like I call myself the Oracle because I'm always getting guys texting me, friends texting me. They're in a record store. What is this? What is that? You know, and I'm like, well, what are you gonna do when I die? You're gonna like break out a Ouija board and talk to my ashes? I mean, you know, that's the thing. It's like, you know, you kind of want to whatever knowledge you've accrued over the years. It's great if you could kind of pass it on.
That's right.
Some way, and I think that on a very broad level, we do that. So it gets, at least, even if it's getting guys talking about what might be the most mundane band to me, might be the most exhilarating band to somebody else. And yeah, it's, you know, the discussion is interesting, but it's the passing of the knowledge, I think, that for me is, you know, I couldn't teach a course, but I have all this knowledge locked in my brain, and if this gives me some outlet to talk about it and pass it on, I mean, I think it's great.
That's probably the number one thing when people come up to me at concerts and they say, oh, you know, after that, they always want to be like, you talked about this band on this show and I checked them out and I love that band. I'm like, oh, you know what? I love hearing that. That is one of the greatest things. And then I get to talk about that band with that person right there. I'm like, yeah, let's talk about this band. You know, I'm glad I could turn you on to it because I always try to, you know, from my perspective, share like underground metal bands. And someone comes up to me like, dude, I checked this band out. You're talking about them and I fucking love them. I went out and bought all their albums, you know, the next day. Like, I love that. You know, I love direct.
Or even better when the band reached out and said, hey, thanks for plugging us in. And I had a few times that, hey, thanks for knowledge. And so that was, yeah.
That freaks me out because I've had some bands contact me and say, you know, I saw you on Sea of Tranquility, or hey, can you send this promo to Pete? You know, like that kind of thing. It's like, really? People watch this thing, you know? People watch it.
There's a death metal band from Chicago, underground band called Cyanide, spelled differently, but I've known the guitarist Scott for a couple of years because I'm out in Chicago a lot. And I love them. They're just a great, legendary old band that's been around for a million years. And when last time I saw Scott, he's like, oh, you know, I was watching this episode. I'm like, wait, you're watching the show? He's like, yeah, man, I watch it every week. You're fucking awesome. You're always talking about these crazy bands from like the Czech Republic. I'm like, wait, you're like one of my favorite death metal bands. You watch me on the show? Like that, the dynamics reversed. You know, he's such a cool laid back. I've known him for years, but just to hear him say that, I was like, you know. So if you're watching Scott, fuck yeah, I love you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really great when you go, for example, a band I didn't know about and I wouldn't know about unless it was thanks to Sea of Tranquility, Enslaved. So I go to their show in Chicago. I have all their records now. I fucking love them. I'm at the show, and then as I'm walking out, these random people just show up and they want to take their picture with me because they've seen me on the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild.
It's wild,
right? And it really is wild because it's one thing if the couple of weirdos that go to my shows want to take their picture with me, that's one thing, right? But this is a completely different crew. They're not supposed to be insane, and they still come up to me to get their picture. So I think it's a lot of fun, and then you get to talk, and you realize that they do actually learn, which is why I would say to Ken, you say you can't teach a course, but I'm actually a college professor, and I will say that in a way, this is a really good high-level seminar. Yeah, it really is. It's nothing pretentious about it. This is what makes it great.
I mean, I'm 63. Right? I'm like the old man, right? I've been listening to this stuff since I'm 15 years old.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I haunted every record store imaginable in New York City every damn day for years and years and years. Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn, you name it, Bronx. I would go into the most dangerous neighborhoods where I'd have one guy sitting in the car and I'd be running the store and we would take turns going in and out. I mean, that's true. I mean, you know, I'm taking my wife up to Arthur Avenue in the Bronx and I'm digging in the bins and I'm covered in filth. I mean, my whole life, that's what I do. And I just absorb it like a sponge. And if I could spit it out and pass it on to somebody else, it's great. I mean, because if you don't, it's lost. I mean, it gets documented. So it gets documented, of course. There are plenty of books, and Martin's a great writer. I mean, but not everybody, I hate to say it, not everybody reads these days. Sometimes you have to, remind somebody, this is called a book. It's got pages, and you turn it, and it's not on a tablet, and it's not, So yeah, I mean, just the ability to pass this stuff on in some way, I think is the best thing.
Yep. For sure.
And you know what, Ken? I want to what you just said about being I'm 61, and I'm still I'm a baby. But I'm saying I'm still learning. I'm always open to learning. I mean, I've been listening to music since the Beatles when I was 3 years old. Okay, back in the 60s. Now it's 2023. And if Brian says, check this band out, I usually do. I'll check it out. Even though I might not like it, but I'll still check it out. And what you guys always suggest, I mean, Pete just recently, what was it, Duskwood?
Yep.
The band from the UK. I bought the whole catalog because I loved it. I fell in love with the guy's voice. I thought he was great, and the music was great. This is where I learned all that. First and foremost, I'm a fan before I'm actually somebody on the show. I'm a fan of the channel. I'm a fan of music.
Yep.
So
I sometimes I'll just like rip a CD of something that I know these guys don't know, and I'll just send them the files. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they hate it. Sometimes, but it's kind of fun to just pass it on and get some kind of a reaction.
I tell you, I was on a show with Lewis not long ago, and he talked about this album. I went out and bought it the next day, and I've been listening to it like crazy. Universe Zero, Heresy. Some asshole put a fucking sticker right on the disc. Some asshole, scum. But that doesn't matter. He mentioned it, and the way he was describing it, and I'm like, well, that sounds like something that I'm going to listen to. So I went on YouTube later on, laying in bed, put it on. I'm like, yep, add to cart, buy, done. And it's fucking awesome. I listen to it all the time now. So
that makes me super happy. I was the same way with Emperor. I saw the show you guys did on Emperor. Mm-hmm. Emperor, what the fuck is that? Mm-hmm. But the thing was, by this point, I now know I don't have to actually listen to it. I just buy it.
It happened yesterday. It happened yesterday with me and Stephen Reed. I remember that Stephen liked Talk, and I had just gotten in CD reissue Bark Psychosis Hex, which is the original post-rock album. That's the album that literally the term post-rock was invented in the review of that album. I said, Stephen, I recommended the album to Stephen. If you're not familiar with them, check it out. Blew his mind. That's what it's about. Just turning friends on and
absolutely
turning them on to music.
I'm always writing stuff down. Like, talk about that sounds cool. I just write it down, and then later that night I'll put it on. I'm like, yep. I don't like it. Like I said, I'll always listen to it, give it a shot. Because sometimes I know I don't like a lot of the more hair stuff that like Butch loves, but the band Icon, he turned me on to when I bought it. I'm like, this is fucking great. Even this is in a style that 99 out of these 100 bands I don't like. And that was the one band I heard. I'm like, yep, this checks the box. And I bought it, and I love it. I listen to it all the time. So everything's worth listening to. If someone talks about it on any of these shows, it'll always get some time of day.
Yeah. I got a text from Ryan just today recommending some stuff to me to check out. So it happens all the time. All right, Rick, let's go to Rick and Martin, and we'll finish up your favorite story, your favorite episode that you appeared on.
It's kind of hard for me to pinpoint like my favorite episode. No, I'm not necessarily in it. I enjoy watching, as everybody said, the camaraderie. And just so you know, I taught Miss Master University Labor Studies, and you guys are talking great brain food. I love the way you guys articulate the stuff. And if you're a history buff, you're gonna get a lot in the music talk that we talk about, because you guys always talk about the history and the dynamic that behind it. You don't do a talk about punk without talking about the invaded music and all these little history tidbits that we get. So I just want to say thumbs up. And like everybody else, I can't go to a show without somebody want to take my photo from this channel too. At the King's X show, a couple of people, I get it. I can't really pinpoint my favorite because I've been a guest to a lot. Like in the proxy, we did some great ones, like about Roger Waters, or if we did Hudson Valley Squares or the Montevent Scammer, they're all what's special to me. I enjoy doing our ranking albums, but I think what I get at the best is when I'm meeting different people in the cast. So I don't have a favorite show because I like it all. And Pete never delivered the bad dub deck. I never say, "Oh, this dub deck, I'm not interested." I always love the theme, so I'm not going to nitpick. I'm going to say I like it a lot. I just love the fact that we all can be engaged like the way we do. The one time where we have unboxing day, or when we had everybody in the panel. So the first time I get to share the stage with everybody. Those are kind of neat things to happen. I think one of the most memorable for me is to get back because documentary where you wanted us to pick each other's brain about that, and it was right hot off the press, very little preparation. You didn't grow with it, and that was fun because it was spontaneous and it was live. Everything's live. So I don't really have a favorite, but I enjoy the sharing, the engagement of the passion that everybody had. The best thing is the meeting all these people. Like I met everybody here that's on this panel in October of 2022 and others, and we're still engaging each other on Facebook and outside of this program. So I made some great friends. So thanks again, guys. I'm glad to share this memories, and we're making more. This is not the only one. It doesn't end today.
That's what it's all about. Yep. All right, Martin, take us out. Your most memorable episode.
Well, again, low hanging fruit, I guess, is the announcement of Pete's Punk Parade with George. That was a lot of fun doing that as an April Fool's one, right? Because just watching the look on George's face, it's like he's just the straightest guy going, right? He's just like absolutely does not betray anything, right? It's like dead serious to him, like we're starting this show, basically, right? And then the other April Fool's Day one, I guess it's called Obscure Album Gems Part 2.
Yeah.
Where we just disseminated a bunch of wrong information sort of thing, right? But I wanted to mention on a more serious note the top prog albums one we did, which we did quite a long time ago. It was like 2 years ago or whatever, and it just is testimony to Pete's ability to and kindness, not to like when you're saying a bunch of really stupid stuff, like although in the comments they'll say, "Oh, did you see Pete's face when Martin was talking about the Clash or punk or something?" Right. But so on this show, I'm like reeling off my top punk albums, and it's like King Crimson Beat, Genesis Abacab. I think I put Chroma Key in there. I might have had a Kate Bush in there, maybe an Eno. I'm not sure, but yeah, definitely I had Peter Gabriel albums in there and stuff. And only do I sort of find out later how much sacrilege it is to really like King Crimson Beat and stuff like that, right? And on the same token, whatever show that was when we were going on about long songs we hate or something, it was the Child in Time one, right? It's like Pete's sacred song of the world, and like Pete's face, he's like listen to me just trash Child in Time for 7 or 8 minutes, right?
That was painful.
Yeah, it's so funny that and I appreciate that, and Pete's really good with that. Like he realizes like none of us are supposed to take any of this personally, right? Sort of thing. So that I really appreciate. But yeah, that prog episode was kind of funny because when I made my list, it was just a bunch of these weird. They weren't the standard prog albums, and we got a lot of views on that. It looks like that was our second most viewed show together, 118,000 views.
Wow.
1,600 comments. So, and I think that's the one where I said Jethro Tull would be better without flute.
You did.
Right? Yeah. That got a few comments too, but yeah. So I really appreciate that. Like the and I probably would be a lot more careful now than I was in the old days, but I didn't know exactly what Pete's sacred albums were, sacred songs, right? So I just spout off whatever, right? So that was kind of cool. But yeah, I love those April Fool's episodes. Those were a lot of fun.
So
I remember watching that episode, and I was like, wait a minute, they're making a mistake. I didn't catch on right away. It's early in the morning, guys. You're like early, and I'm just having my coffee. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta correct this. And then I'm wait a minute, it's April Fool. But I'm like, I couldn't believe it because it's not like you guys to articulate false information. And it was so way out of orbit. It was so obvious. But for a second there, I had a panic mode for you guys for a second. Oh no, somebody gotta correct them right away. Are they gonna get it?
We were pretty nervous before we did that one. And I remember like Martin said, all right, so if at any point during the episode, if you feel that you're going to burst out laughing, or if you feel you need to take a breath, he goes, just give me a little, I forget what the code we were using that we were going to pause the video. And we had to do it like right in the middle, because Martin said some shit that was so like out of control. And I was like, I was going to lose it. And it was hard. It was really hard. We were just spouting off all this ridiculous nonsense. And believe it or not, like half the audience didn't pick up on it. They were kind of like doubting what we were saying. Like, oh, it's like they're making a few more mistakes than they normally do today. And it wasn't until like afterwards that it seemed like people finally started to pick up that it was actually in, because also April Fool's doesn't mean much in some other countries across the globe, right? It's a thing here, but I think a lot of people who watch from like internationally were kind of like, it's just any other day. Why are these two babbling about all this incorrect information here? So there was
and the time that they watch it 6 hours later, the second day, and it's kind of outdated already. So yeah, right, good point.
Yeah, that was cool.
And the comments is the best part. I mean, that's when people get so mad at you and the start railing against you and don't get it. That is the fun of it, right?
I love reading the comments.
I'm still getting shit from all the Kansas fans.
Oh yeah.
A month later.
Everybody hates the fact that I don't think the drummer Phil Earhart, or however the fuck you pronounce his name, isn't the greatest guy ever. And I'm thinking, dude, I didn't say he sucked. I just said his drum solo sucked. But it's just my opinion, right? It's not like what am I to do, right? But they're still pissed. They even send me personal messages. Wow. They look me up on, so that they really want to know. They want me to know that I hurt their feelings. I'm also surprised that sometimes people that I don't expect are going to communicate directly do. Sometimes big names in Prague and everything, they send, hey man, you said this thing about my record that I didn't like, and I do. Relax.
I get people all the time saying to me, how much they hate Kiss and how much they love my tirade about Kiss. I get that all the time.
Well, I have people write to me or commented, Rick, I love the harmonica solo that you put in. I don't get what Pete get. And to be truthful, Pete, it was always a minority, because if I throw the harmonica in one of my set, I get a standing ovation because it's like a big deal. I don't overplay it like John Popper or something. And when he's always going, oh no, everybody said, Rick, don't worry, we got you on this one. It's funny how a lot of people said, I don't get what he got against the harmonica, that he loved Mick Jagger, he loved Robert Plant, he loved Roger Daltrey, he loved Steven Tyler, he loved Chris Robinson, all of them play harmonica. I mean, they don't overplay, I get it. But anyway, there's so many times people come to give me the rescue. Don't let them discourage you. Keep it going.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of harmonica. I don't mind it a little bit here and there, but that's why, Blues Traveler,
Black Sabbath, the Wizard.
Yeah.
There you go. I was thinking exactly that.
I think it'd be a better song without it, but yeah, it's whatever.
I'm just used to it.
Anyway,
the only one, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's the only one. Then he played a little late. He plays a little harmonica on his recent solo album. That's, I think, the only other. Yeah, the last song on that one. So
yeah.
All right. Well, as with the first episode, this was lots of fun. Always great to reminisce about all these fun occasions. So I want to thank everybody here for taking part tonight. We'll be doing a part 3 of this in a couple of weeks. We'll grab whoever. We probably have enough folks on the channel to do at least 4 or 5 episodes, I think, or something like that. So hopefully we'll grab.
Probably.
I talked to our UK folks tonight, so Stephen and Simon are on board. We just got to figure out how to make that work with time differences and all that kind of stuff, but we'll figure it out. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Let us know your favorite moments, favorite episodes with these gentlemen here appearing in the squares tonight, and we'll see you next time here as we remember everybody's first appearances on the channel. For Louis Nasser, Ken Golden, Rob LaSante, Ryan Skow, Rick LaBonte, and Martin Popoff. I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, guys. See you later.